When we say democracy is government of the people, by the people, and for the people, Nigerians are supposed to be at the center of governance. But what we see, what we live every day, is something else, a system where leaders and institutions hold power without consequences, where those in charge operate above the rules. We have normalized impunity. We have normalized weakness. We have normalized weak institutions. We have normalized a lack of transparency. And together, all of these eat away at the soul of our democracy. Let me tell you a story. A young man in Abuja once told me, Nigeria feels like a democracy of Yahoo Yahoo. His words weren't bitter ramblings, they were heavy with resignation. He had just returned from a long drive where he spent 3 hours begging for the release of his seized car. Not because he broke the law, no, but because an officer felt like teaching him a lesson for driving a nice car. He had refused to pay a bribe during a stop and search. He was punished not by due process, not by the law, but by sheer impunity. The raw power of an officer who knew he would never be held accountable. That is the true Nigerian story. Power without accountability. When we say democracy is government of the people, by the people, and for the people, Nigerians are supposed to be at the center of governance. But what we see, what we live every day, is something else, a system where leaders and institutions hold power without consequences, where those in charge operate above the rules, and where accountability is reduced to a meaningless slogan. We have normalized impunity. We have normalized weakness. We have normalized weak institutions. We have normalized a lack of transparency. And together, all of these eat away at the soul of our democracy. Impunity is not just a word. It is a reality that shapes the daily life of every Nigerian. It means the powerful can act without fear of punishment. It means crimes can be committed without consequences. It means rules exist, but only for the weak. And no matter what we do, we can always see that if you look around the world, there is nowhere else that impunity operates with so much freedom in Nigeria. Every Nigerian knows the saying, if you steal a goat, you go to prison. If you steal billions, you get chieftaincy title. That is impunity in a nutshell. Think about it. How many high-profile corrupt cases have you heard of in Nigeria? Dozens, right? How many ended up with real conviction or jail time? Barely a handful. According to Transparency International, Nigeria still languishes near the bottom of Global Corruption Perception Index, scoring 26 out of 100 in 2024. That's not just a number, it's a verdict on our system. It tells the world what we have always known, that corruption here is not exception, but the operating system of governance. And when corruption becomes normalized, impunity becomes a shield. Politicians, judges, law enforcement officers, entire category of elites walk around untouchable. They know the rules do not apply to them. You see, impunity creates a two-tier justice system. For the poor, the law is swift and merciless. For petty thief who steals bread in Lagos market, he can be lynched within minutes. A teenager who is accused of cybercrime can have his phone seized and be brutalized by security operatives. But for the elite, justice is slow, selective, and negotiable. Let's talk about Desania Liston in Madueke, for instance. Former Minister of Petroleum Resources. She has now been accused of looting billions of dollars from Nigeria's oil revenue. Billions, not millions. Houses, luxury jewelries, expensive cars were traced to her name. Yet, for nearly a decade, Her case has been dragged on in the courts, bouncing between Nigeria and the UK. Meanwhile, billions that could have been used to electrify rural communities, build schools, or provided hospitals remain trapped in legal limbo. The law hunts the powerless while bending for the powerful. That's Nigeria for you. One of the biggest scandals of our democracy is that the fight against corruption itself has become a weapon of impunity. Anti-graft agencies like EFCC and ICPC were meant to enforce accountability. And to be fair, they have had some successes in the past. In 2024, the EFCC recovered nearly $500 million in stolen funds and secured over 4,000 convictions in corruption cases. On paper, that sounds impressive, but scratch the surface and you will see a darker truth. Enforcement is selective. Too often, investigations are often used as political tools. Opposition figures are dragged to court, paraded in handcuffs, and even shamed on television. Meanwhile, the ruling party allies, accused of same crimes, enjoy protection. The result is that corruption is not truly punished, it is managed. It is weaponized against opponents while allies are shielded. This selective justice is worse than no justice at all because it erodes trust in institutions. Nigerians look at EFCC and ask, is this agency really fighting corruption or is it just fighting enemies of the government? That question alone destroys legitimacy. Impunity is not just about presidents, ministers, or governors. It's in the streets. It's in the checkpoints. It's in the officers. Every Nigerian has a story. A custom officer at Lagos Port can hold your container hostage until you settle. A police officer can detain you overnight without charge just because you refuse to drop money. A civil servant can lose your file until you pay to find it again. A survey revealed that Nigerians paid 721 billion in bribe to public officials in a single year. That's more than the entire federal budget for health. Let that sink in. We spent more bribing officials than the government spent on keeping people alive. This isn't petty corruption. It's a systemic impunity. Every official who takes a bribe knows the system will protect him. Every officer who harasses youth knows nothing will happen. Every politician who siphons money knows that worst case scenario, he will negotiate a refund and just walk free. The tragedy of impunity is not just the money stolen, it's the trust that it has destroyed. When people believe that rules only apply to the weak, they stop believing in the system. They stop believing in democracy. They stop believing that change is possible. And when citizens stop believing, they disengage. They stop voting. They stop reporting crimes. They stop demanding accountability. They retreat into survival mode where everyone looks out for themselves. That is what impunity has done to Nigeria. It has created a democracy without faith, a government without legitimacy, a nation where the social contract is broken. When a car breaks down on the road, you can see it clearly. The smoke, the stalled engine, the driver sweating as other cars just pass by. But when a democracy breaks down, it's not always obvious. The elections still happen, politicians still make speeches, the court still sits, the police still wears uniform. On the surface, Nigeria looks like a functioning democracy. But if you scratch beneath the surface, you find that the machinery, the very institutions that are supposed to enforce accountability, deliver justice, and protect the people are weak, broken, or deliberately sabotaged. And here's the thing about weak institutions. They don't happen by accident. They are often kept weak by design because strong institutions would mean accountability. And accountability is one thing that those in power fear the most. Let's start with the judiciary, the so-called last hope of the common man. In theory, The courts are meant to be shield of democracy. They are supposed to enforce the constitution, punish corruption, and protect citizens from abuse. But in Nigeria, the judiciary is perhaps the weakest link in the democratic chain. Take corruption cases. On the average, corruption trials in Nigeria last between 8 to 10 years. That's almost an entire length of a political career. By the time a judgment is delivered, the accused may have already finished serving the term in office, retired, or even died. A classic example, former governor Joshua Darie, the governor of Plateau State, who was accused of corruption, charged to court in 2007. It took 11 years before the court finally convicted him in 2018. 11 years. And after the conviction, he received a presidential pardon in 2022. What message does that send? That even when justice comes, it can be undone with a stroke of a pen. Then there is law enforcement, police, military, security agencies. For ordinary Nigerians, these institutions are not protectors, they are predators. The police, chronically underfunded and underpaid, have turned to citizens as their ATMs. Stop and search checkpoints are not about security, they are about extortion. The 2020 NSAS protest revealed to the world what young Nigerians have known for years, that law enforcement agencies routinely harass, torture, and even kill citizens with impunity. Think about it. The SARS unit, originally created to combat violent robbery, became the very embodiment of violence. Young men were profiled for wearing dreadlocks, using iPhones, or driving nice cars. Countless lives were lost, and yet, despite the nationwide protest and promises of reform, how many officers have faced real consequences? Almost none. Nigeria's institutions are not weak by accident. They are weak by design. Why has the judiciary remained slow and corrupt? Because a fast, independent judiciary would jail politicians. Why is the police underfunded and left to extort citizens? Because a well-funded professional police force would challenge the same politicians who use them as tools. The weakness of Nigeria's institution is not a bug, it's a feature. It serves those in power. This is why every time there is talk of reform, you hear the same promises repeated. Police reform, judicial reform, but nothing changes. Because if the institutions become truly strong, democracy in Nigeria would no longer be a shield for the powerful. It will be a check against them. And that is one thing powerful politicians cannot allow. If weak institutions are the bone of our broken democracy, and impunity is the blood that runs through it, then lack of transparency is the cloak that hides everything from sight. Transparency is supposed to be the oxygen of democracy. Without it, government becomes a closed-door cult, decisions taken in shadow, deals struck in the dark, and citizens left to live with the consequences. Nigeria has perfected this act of ruling in the shadow. Think about it. Do you know how much your state government actually receives from federal allocation every month? Technically, you should. The Federation Account Allocation Committee publishes the figure. But that's where the story ends. Once the money leaves Abuja, it vanishes into black hole of state governance. Budgets are often released late, sometimes doctored, and almost never tracked. In fact, Budget 2023 report showed that more than 70% of Nigerian states lack clear, accessible budget performance data. That means, even though billions flow into these accounts, citizens cannot see how it is spent. This darkness isn't accidental, it is deliberate. Transparency threatens those who benefit from the system. When contracts are awarded in secret, when procurement records are hidden, when the details of government spending are treated like state secrets, corruption thrives. Take the scandal of security votes, for instance. Every month, governors across Nigeria withdraw between 300 million and 700 million in cash, justified as funds for security operations. These funds are unaccounted for, unaudited, and entirely discretional. In 2021, Transparency International described Nigeria's security votes as the world's largest known single source of unaccounted public funds. Imagine that, an entire slush fund built into the very structure of governance, legitimized by law but shrouded in darkness. Nigeria's story doesn't have to remain one of impunity, weak institutions, and stolen future. If power without accountability has broken our democracy, then citizens with accountability can rebuild it. But the question is, where do we even begin? I can tell you a few of how we can start. 1. Demand transparency as a right, not a favor. Government documents, procurement details, budgets, and audit reports belong to the people, not hidden in ministries as if they were private accounts. The Freedom of Information Act 2011 was created for this very purpose, but it has been underused. Young Nigerians must remain, active and claim it. Civic tech groups like Budget already publish simplified data. Share and use them to hold your representatives accountable. Insist that local government chairmen publish how much allocation they receive monthly from Abuja. These numbers are public, but many Nigerians don't even know they can access it. 2. Own the conversation. Politicians thrive in darkness because young people often focus on election day, not the 4 years in between. The digital space is your battlefield. From X spaces to TikTok explainers, break down complex issues like subsidy scam or budget waste into languages that other young people can understand. Make corruption uncool. I think that's one thing we can do as young people. When peers normalize impunity, challenge it with facts. Narratives shape culture, and that in turn shapes how we operate as a people. Institutions are weak because they are captured by the powerful, but public scrutiny strengthens them. Attend public hearings. Many National Assembly hearings are open but empty. Imagine if 100 young people fill those galleries every single time. Flood anti-corruption agencies like EFCC with petitions, not tweets. A flood of petition forces bureaucrats to act, or at least expose their inaction. Build collective power. The greatest fear of the powerful is not one angry youth. It is organized, consistent, and united pressure. Youth unions, student associations, professional bodies, or even neighborhood network can become some sort of a watchdog. Imagine if every university SUG demanded their state government publish an annual audit of education spending. Small pressures like that can scale things and change the game. 4. Play the long game beyond elections. Yes, election matter, but accountability is a daily work, not a 4-year ritual. Democracy is not saved by ballots alone, but by vigilance. Monitor projects in your community. If a contract is awarded for health center, track the process. Expose abandonment. Make videos about them. Post it online. Push for institutional reforms. Police accountability boards. Stronger procurement processes. Electronic asset declarations. I have always said that for us to have a nation that we can be proud of, young people have to be at the center of it. If Nigeria feels broken, it is because power has been left unchallenged for too long. But power is never a gift. It is always a negotiation. Young people have the numbers, the tools, the fire to demand a new deal. The next time someone tells you nothing can change in Nigeria, remind them it was students who fought against military decrees. Very big part of it. It was youth who filled the streets of Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt during the NSAS. And if Nigeria will survive, it has to be youths who will lead the charge and force this country, into a future where the powerful can finally answer to the people. Because the truth is simple. When accountability wins, democracy wins. Stay organized, stay engaged, stay focused. This is Civic Room with Menkiti, and I'll see you in the next episode.